Let's now look at the learner area in the application. As you start using the application, you will need to import your learners into the system or get them to sign up into the system. So there are three ways in which you can get the learners into the system. The first is to create a registration form which you can access by clicking on this menu item. The second option is if you already have a database of learners in an Excel file or in a CSV format, then you can use this menu sub item under learners to import your learners into the system. Let's quickly review how that can happen. So the first step that you see is to import your learners. Now this is the dialog box in which you can upload the file that you already have which has learner details. There is a checklist also available which you can see to check if the data is formatted correctly. There is also a template for reference that you can download from here to understand how the learners need to be structured. So let us quickly download this template. Let's save this. Okay, now we have opened the template that we just downloaded. Here you see there are multiple headers that are mentioned. So you can have your username here, the name of the learner, the email ID of the learner, and also the password that you would like to set for them. This is an optional field. Learners can also set up their own passwords, but a good practice is to, if you are importing learners from an Excel file, it would be useful if you set up a passwords which we can send them for their first login, and they can of course change the password later. So this is how the data needs to get structured. So let's quickly fill out some information for the purpose of this demo. Okay, so under username I have just put a test user. I can also create a new column where I can have the first name and the last name, so I can work from this file itself. So I've created first name here, so let's call it test, and then I have last name. That's a new column that I'm adding, and let's just call it last name user. And for the purpose of email, I can copy and paste or check their email ID which I would like to be registered for this learner. And then for the purpose of password, you can either set it up here, or if you don't want to do it at this stage, you can simply delete it, and you can add any other field as per your choice. So let's say location is New Delhi. Okay, so let's quickly save this file as a CSV. Okay, I'm saving this file as a CSV right now. Okay, and let's try to import that file now. Okay, so here is the file. Either I can choose the file from here, or I can simply drag and drop from my open folder. So let's do that. And I will check on this row, on this checkbox where it says the first row contains field names, and then I click on import. So it says learners are imported successfully. If your file has thousands of learners or hundreds of learners, this process may take a little bit of time, but you will be guided along the way. So the second thing I need to do now is step 2, which is identify header fields. So here are on the top row, I see some field names, and I can identify what type of field name is it going to be. So for example, username needs to be text, then name can be also be text. We have multiple types of fields that one can choose from. For email, it has to be text, or I can change it to email from here. And Okay, let's now upload the file that we had just saved. So this is the CSV file. I have saved it here, and I have checked on this column which says that the first row contains field names. Okay, one thing to keep in mind while you're saving your Excel file as a CSV is that while if you're working in the office environment, you will see that there are multiple options for CSV available. So you see CSV UTF-8, delimited. You also see CSV only CSV with comma delimited, and you see CSV Macintosh and MS-DOS. So the one that you need to save your file as will be CSV or only CSV, which is comma delimited, which is this one. So once I save this file here, so let me quickly replace it. And what we are going to do now is okay, what we are going to do now is we are going to replace or upload the file that we had just saved. So the way to do that will be I drag and drop, and I click on import. Okay, now you see that the list that we had just created for the purpose of this demo has now been imported. And now what you will see is in the first row, you will see the headers that already exist in the file. You can now set how these headers, what type of these fields would you want to save them in the database as. So you have multiple field types starting from text area if it is going to be more than one line, the date, so date of joining, things like that, numeric value, if it's a true and false type of field, or it can be an email field. And what we need to do is to set each of these types of these fields that we have imported. So for username, we let it be text. First name text is fine, last name text is fine. For email, we might want to change it to a email. For location, this can again be a text. So from here, now we click on looks good, and then we have to now do some basic matching. So for this purpose, we have name of the learner. We will match it with the first name which is given in our file. For username, we will use the same text, which is the username header area. That column of username will be assigned as the username of that particular learner. For password, we haven't yet set any password yet. So what we can do is we can let their location be the password, or any of the other fields that you have imported can become passwords. This is a very good practice if, like we mentioned, if you are importing from a database. So for now, another option is that I can also generate random passwords which will be sent on email to learners. So this is also an option where you do not want to select a password from the existing fields that you have imported, but you want to generate random passwords and they will be sent to learners on their email as their passwords. So you can also tick on this. So one of the two options you need to select for setting up the passwords for the learners in your system. And then for the email, you can select email as the email, and now you see this option called set profile. Now profile is basically a bucket of learners who have the similar learning needs. If you go through the first documentation on understanding the EasyAE architecture, you will understand that profile is a way to group learners together. So currently you will see that although there is a drop down here, but there is no option which is coming up, which means that you have not yet created any profiles or any learner profiles in the system. So how do we do that? We can also do it later at a later time. But if you want to also, if you know that there are going to be limited number of profiles that you will import learners into, then a quick way is to create a learner profile, which we will get to in another video. Also from here you can choose to send an invite to the learner right from here, which means that the moment the learners will come inside the system, invite will go to them, sharing with them their login information and welcoming them into the system. So let's say I also want to send an invite to the learner, and then I click on update. Let's select a password and let's let their last name be the password for the purpose of logging into the system for the first time. Once you've completed this information, then you click on update from here.